Good morning, everyone. I'm Andrea Koppel, and on behalf of the Brookings Institution, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, and the Asia Society, I'd like to welcome all of you to what is surely going to be a very interesting 90-minute conversation with the Nobel Prize-winning His Holiness Dalai Lama, who's the exiled Tibetan spiritual leader. His Holiness is in Washington this week because the U.S. Congress has just honored him with a Congressional Gold Medal, the nation's highest and most distinguished civilian award. The award was in recognition of the Dalai Lama's many contributions over the years to peace, nonviolence, human rights, and religious understanding. As many of you know, His Holiness was recognized at the age of 2 to be the reincarnation of the 13th Dalai Lama. And in accordance with Tibetan tradition, he was enthroned as the 14th Dalai Lama on February 22nd, 1940. Now a spry 72 years old, His Holiness has spent the last 48 years living in exile in India, where he and thousands of his followers fled following the violent suppression by the Chinese People's Liberation Army of an uprising in Lhasa in March 1959. Since then, His Holiness has sought to bridge the differences with Beijing in the hopes of reaching a mutually beneficial resolution to the Tibet issue. Now, this morning's conversation is going to cover a wide range of topics, which will include, of course, the decades-long impasse with Beijing over Tibet. It'll also cover other important international issues like the environment, global warming, the widening gap between rich and poor, an issue near and dear to the Dalai Lama's heart, and tolerance or intolerance in the name of religion. With us to lead the conversation with His Holiness are 3 distinguished men, well known to many of you in this room. They include Strobe Talbot, who is the president of the Brookings Institution and who served as Deputy Secretary of State in the Clinton administration. During his tenure at the State Department, he was one of the Clinton administration's foremost experts and strategists on China and on India. Richard Armitage, who is a trustee at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, and he is also the president of Armitage International. He served as Deputy Secretary of State in the Bush administration from March 2001 until November 2004, during which time he, among other things, helped the Bush administration to craft its Asia policy. And Richard Holbrooke, chairman of the Asia Society, and he is also the vice chairman of Perseus. His dealings with China, Tibet, and the Dalai Lama go back several decades. During the Carter administration, he served as the Assistant Secretary of State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs when he was deeply engaged in establishing diplomatic relations with China. Tibet is an interest and a cause about which he is extremely passionate to this very day, and he counts the Dalai Lama as a close personal friend. One note, I want to ask all of you who may still have your Blackberries or your phones on to please turn them off, and also to let you know that time permitting, we may have an opportunity to take a couple of questions that people wrote, I guess, and dropped into a box at the back of the room when they first came in. Of course, that's time permitting the last few minutes of this conversation. And now I want to turn things over to Richard Armitage.
Well, thank you, Ms. Koppel. Good morning, Your Holiness. It's great to be back with you again, see you again. You've joined with 3 refugees from the Department of State here. But as you can see by the representatives here, the issue of Tibet and the message that Your Holiness brings is not a matter of partisan politics here in Washington. It crosses party boundaries and it crosses sort of governmental bureaucratic boundaries. And the Department of State, which all 3 of us have worked in, is quite proud of the fact that historically we've been able to support NGOs who have been involved in the development and the preservation of Tibetan culture. We've raised, each of us in our own way, with Chinese interlocutors, the need to have meaningful dialogue with representatives of His Holiness, and pleased to say that 4 of those dialogues have been held. We have here today Undersecretary Paula Dobryansky, who is a very strong, powerful advocate of the Tibetan people and makes absolutely clear to the American people and to the American Congress that we're living up to our responsibilities to the people of Tibet. And finally, I think that you've seen in your visits to Washington, Your Holiness, and most particularly your welcome yesterday, that everyone here in Washington wants to be of assistance in amplifying the message of hope and peace which you bring. Now, all of us have participated in the Department of State in matters Tibet. I think, though, all of us, the three of us at least, probably have some regrets that we weren't able to do more. So we'll look to you today, Your Holiness, to give us an idea on what you think the United States should better do or more, perhaps vociferously, do to support the hopes and aspirations of the Tibetan people. Now, I might start things off, as Ms. Koppel had indicated, with a question, if I may. Your Holiness, many of the eyes here in Washington, which were not focused on you in the last couple of days, were focused in Beijing, watching the Party Congress, where Chinese officials were making decisions about personnel and about policy. And I wonder if you have any information that Tibet was a matter of discussion in those deliberations in Beijing. Some observers have noted that the conversations and the statements from Beijing on the question of Taiwan have been conciliatory. And I wonder if you think this is also possible regarding Tibet.
I don't know.
Should I go to the next question?
Yes, yes.
I wish more of us in our line of work were as good at answering questions that way as His Holiness. That would be the beginning of wisdom for all of us, I think. Your Holiness, I join my colleagues and I think everybody in the room in expressing what an honor it is to be in your presence and to have a chance to interact with you today. I would like to put a question to you also concerning Tibet and its relationship to the People's Republic of China. Let me preface this by saying first, those who follow this issue, and more people should, know that you have spoken on it before. Chairman Lantosh yesterday spoke for you, with you, when he said that you accept the PRC's sovereignty, that you are not a splittist. I think all of us know that there is disagreement over the historical aspect of this problem. You and many others have one view, others have different views. I would like to pose my question without reference to history, because what really matters is the situation today and the situation into the future. Is it your position that Tibet is and will continue to be within the People's Republic of China?
Oh, yes. Very clear. Actually, after 59, I think till 59, they suppose the I think policy of China, according to the 17-point agreement. And after 59, so that era, then no longer. Then till 74, so we heavily engaged resettlement and start schools. These are sort of measure our work. Of course, 1959, the early 60s, we also tried to raise Tibetan issue at the UN. then 74, among our few, say, I think our top leaders in the refugee community, we decided, or we made up in our mind, sooner or later we have to talk with the central government of China. Then the question of independence is out of question. So realistic approach, genuine autonomy, which Chinese constitution itself provided. Actually, the setting up autonomous region is when I was in Peking, 1954. Chairman Mao personally, at our meeting, that I think first meeting more formal way, second meeting about I think about 4 hours, long discussions. And at that meeting, Chairman Mao asked me, now in 17-point agreement, it mentioned something, one kind of sort of, what's the community, political, military, that kind of sort of setup. It mentioned in the 17-point agreement. But then Chairman Mao asked me about his suggestion. Now, instead of setting up that political, military sort of, what's the day, I don't know, arrangement, better to set up autonomous region. For that, now the preparatory committee for autonomous region. So Chairman Mao himself suggested. And after our meeting, I asked my sort of Tibetan government cabinets, all the important sort of officials. I asked that everybody, including Pension Lama, everybody overjoyed is setting up autonomous region. For that, setting up a preparatory committee. So, at that time, many or I think at least some Tibetan communists some of these Tibetan communists, they joined Communist Party in 30s. So then we really sort of have a strong enthusiasm. Now, this is the time to build Tibet under the leadership of Chinese Communist Party. Full enthusiasm. And with that enthusiasm, and then setting up autonomous region. And everybody now happy, and then we responded to the central government. Now we fully agree that. So, 74, we again, after our discussion, now the meaningful autonomy, genuine autonomy, is the best interest, mutually agreeable solution. So since then, you see, we fully committed about middle way approach, not seeking independence. Very clear. So, early 79, when we received some indication from Chinese government, we already made up in our mind. So at once we responded, we are very happy. After that meet, their leaders. So like that. So we fully committed about middle way approach, not seeking independence. Therefore, among Tibetans, Tibetan outside as well as inside, and also among some of our supporters, quite critical about our way of sort of approach. So in spite of these criticisms, we, all those years, we fully committed, and future also we fully committed that. So now it has become clear, it is our own interest. Because Tibet, materially very, very backward and landlocked country, small population. Therefore, meantime, every Tibetan want modernized Tibet. Therefore, Tibet remain within the People's Republic of China. As far as material development is concerned, it will be great benefit, provided since we have our own cultural heritage and rich Buddhist tradition, and also the delicate environment sort of situation. Therefore, we really need meaningful self-role. That means, except foreign affairs, defense, all the business, including religion, culture, education, because we have our own language, our own script, and also economy, they should be in the hands of Tibetan who knows about Tibetan culture or Tibetan Buddhism. Or then those Tibetan communists are not necessarily knowing Tibetan Buddhism, but doesn't matter. As a Tibetan, this is some sort of awareness, importance of Buddhism in Tibetan community. Some of all these communists, Tibetan communists, they eventually become more religious-minded. Well, recently, I met once the former bodyguard of Li Pang. I think last year I met. He told me his boss, Li Pang, now become more religious-minded. So like that, you see, those communists early when they are young, very radical atheist, but when they become older and older, come to nearer and nearer to death, then obviously Marxism no longer any use after death. So then is compelled to think, oh, what is religion? What is spirituality? Like that. So in any way, is it Tibetan Buddhism or Tibetan spirituality, Tibetan culture, education, and economy, which very much related with ecology, these should handled by Tibetan. Unfortunately, up to now, for example, the main sort of decision makers always is Han Chinese, who have no knowledge about the Tibetan culture and these things. Then the worst thing is, I just met, very recently I met one Tibetan who cannot speak Tibetan, only Chinese and English. some broken English like my English. That person is told me, at his native place, the people, they want to learn Tibetan. They ask the concerned Chinese leader, officials, we want to learn Tibetan. They answer, no need, study Tibetan. Chinese, more useful. Things like that. Then, in the religious field also, one party secretary, few years ago, I think about 10 years ago, the one party secretary told in the party meeting in Lhasa, the ultimate source of threat, Tibet separation from mainland China, is Tibetan Buddhism. So that kind of attitude, person who are decision maker, that kind of view is then naturally great damage. So it is mutual sort of benefit. One way, give us meaningful autonomy, self-rule, and meantime, remain happily within People's Republic of China. That's mutual benefit. I often was telling Tibetans and also some of my friends, Tibet remain within People's Republic of China, and economically we will be stronger, more prosperity. If Tibet remain or Tibet separate from that big country, and we will remain weak, poor. So therefore, bit long sort of answers, but the one word, yes. Remain within the People's Republic of China. We are fully committed.
Richard?
Well, thank you, Your Holiness. When I'm in your presence, I feel more religious too. Congratulations on yesterday. It was in the long, complicated history of your and Tibet's relations with the United States. Yesterday was a historic landmark day, and as Richard Armitage said, it was a fully bipartisan day, and that had great meaning, particularly in a city where bipartisanship has been in very short supply lately. I would like to ask two linked questions. First, given what you just said, your very clear answer on Strobe's question, yes, you do not challenge the fact that Tibet is part of the People's Republic of China. You want autonomy within China. You are not seeking independence. Given the fact that you've said this over and over and over again for the last 15 or 20 years, my first question is very basic. Why do you think that the leadership of the People's Republic of China continues to call you, as recently as yesterday, a splittist? Why do they insist on calling you a splittist? And then I have a second related question.
So I myself, we also have some kind of a question. As you know, since renewed our direct contact with the Chinese government, the 6 time roundtable talks take place. I think you mentioned 4, Lama saying. Actually, it's 6 times, 6 meetings. At 5th meeting, the Chinese officials acknowledged now Tibetan Dalai Lama side not seeking independence. They acknowledged. But then, soon after, the Chinese government sort of, as propaganda, still continuously accuse us splittist. So we don't know why. Their own officials at our meeting, 5th meeting, acknowledged. But the other government officials still continue. So there must be some some reasons or some their basic policy is something different. So I think you will get best answer if you ask Chinese directly.
Well,
then you get the
Your Holiness,
full answer. So
Your Holiness, as you
we just simply guess. Why like that?
as you and Luddy know, I have asked that question. My friend Dick Blum has asked that question very often of the Chinese whenever we are there. And their answer is always either, I'm just quoting them now, I don't want to get into editorializing. Their answer to the question I asked you and then you asked me, their answer is either that you were insincere, which of course none of us believe. If there's a sincere man in this universe, it's you. And the second.
Yes.
That was a compliment, Your Highness. And your second, the second reason they give gets very complicated with details that we don't need to go into here. But sometimes they say that there's a disagreement over what the definition of Tibet is. So I think we posed the question. We don't need to carry it further. But since you asked me, I should say that Dick and I know Paula, have all had this conversation with the Chinese. And it's very frustrating because all of us look for a reconciliation. Now, which brings me to my second question. Yesterday, Congressman Lantos, Speaker Pelosi, and President Bush all expressed the very strong desire that you be able to return to China, at least on a visit. And your excellent emissary, who is here with us today, Luddy Gary, and many others of us have long dreamed about this. And the last 3 or 4 American administrations have all advocated this. What would you go back to China on a visit, not to live? Would you go back to China without any conditions if such an invitation were issued?
Country visit? No. Yes. My desire visit people go to China, including Tibet. 1983, I publicly expressed my desire visit to see by myself what's the reality. Then, because the previous my fact-finding delegations, I think 3, 4 times, when they visited different Tibetan area, the local population overwhelmed response. So sometimes a little provocation way. So there is such a danger. Therefore, I want visit something very smooth and must be helpful to develop mutual trust, not causing any problem. So therefore, we want to send a delegation for my preparation for my visit, 84. Then our plan, 85, I want to visit. But then that sort of the delegation for preparation did not materialize. Chinese government not give us permission to pay. Then 92 also, I express I want to visit Tibet. Then main purpose is to cool down the situation. That suggestion also is there. Was there? No positive response. Then sometimes the Chinese officials state, actually at the funeral of Panchen Lama, they invited me, but Dalai Lama not come. That is just their excuse. At that time, it's a very short period, very short time, and difficult. And the visit, not that easy. The Chinese officials themselves, you see, told one occasion of our meeting, when they mentioned about my desire, at least one pilgrimage, strictly non-political. Then they responded, Dalai Lama, as a political sort of person, so impossible to avoid, or impossible to be a strictly non-political. It's impossible. Some implication always there. So anyway, it is true. So therefore, they without proper sort of preparation, and it may turn some negative sort of consequences. So otherwise, my desire always there. And particularly pilgrimage like Uteshan, those sacred places, as a Buddhist, now also, as I mentioned earlier, now getting older, I say, more keen to pay my sort of, prayer to those holy places in China. So my desire is very, very keen, but meantime, not that simple. So I do not want causing more sort of trouble. I do not want. Now, for example, last year, I think there's some Chinese, agent, created a rumor. I will come to Kumbum Monastery. So with that rumor, thousands is a Tibetan from that area gathered to Kumbum Monastery. So naturally, when Tibetan heard, or even Chinese, Dalai is coming to Uteshan, I think without proper sort of preparation, some problems may happen. Then very, very top secret way to visit, that also not much use. You see, my two envoy, I think the third visit, isn't it? Third or second? First visit to Lhasa. So you see, they had the opportunity to kasada, to pay respect, to pay kasada, prayer to our temple. Almost like prisoner. Few of them was surrounded by security police there, and no opportunity to meet Tibetan, no opportunity to talk. Almost like a prisoner. Go very rush way. So such the pilgrimage, I don't think they will not fulfill real meaning of pilgrimage. Pilgrimage should be calm and faith and prayer, some meditation. Without that, not much use. So otherwise, my desire, always very, very keen. And beside pilgrimage, if there is possibility, meet some leaders, I'm only happy. I think this kind of sort of was a conversation. If can take place in China, very happy. Made it very clear, I'm not spiritist. I can state clearly.
Well, one hopes, Your Holiness, that the Chinese will accept your message of peace. But you mentioned earlier the phenomenon of Han Chinese making policy decisions in Tibet. So can I ask you the status of Han migration to Tibet and what, if anything, should be done about it?
Now, that is a very serious matter. Already, as I mentioned yesterday in my speech, the I think this is my tea, hot water. Good. This is for you. This is for you.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, cold water. You want some hot?
No.
Oh. So, like you see, now Lhasa, the population in the past, before 1950, when we were there, I think around 50,000, 50,000, very small population. Of course, quite dirty, no proper toilet. However, small population and cold climate, dry climate, so not much problem.
And no railroad and no roads.
Nowadays, you see the population around 300,000, I was told. Out of 300,000, the 200,000 are Chinese. Now, every visitors now, notice, you see, except in the center, the surrounding Chokhang temple, the whole now town become like Chinatown. Now everybody has noticed that. I think there must be some people who visit Lhasa. I think everybody has noticed that. So I think we feel clear indication is those young Tibetan who come from Tibet, who grown up that kind of sort of atmosphere. Now, Tibetan who born in India, their behavior differences. Tibetan who come from Tibet, more violent type, more aggressive. Tibetan born in India, more Tibetan traditional way, like that. So this is the clear indication, degeneration of Tibetan cultural heritage or Tibetan behavior, like that. And then, because overwhelming Chinese population, then the minority Tibetan, they have to use Chinese language as a main language rather than Tibetan. Tibetan language in their own place now no longer much used. So that's a very serious matter, very, very serious matter. And like Lhasa, most of the bigger town, the Tibetan already becoming minority.
Your Holiness, if I could broaden the scope of our discussion to a global issue, which is climate change or global warming, I would like to ask your view on what you see as the role for religious leaders like yourself, but religious leaders from all faiths around the world, and religious institutions around the world on this issue. The scientists working on this problem seem to be increasingly in agreement with each other and increasingly concerned, I would say even pessimistic, about what the consequences for our planet will be if the politicians and political leaders of the world do not take some kind of urgent action. And since politicians, in some countries more than others, but in general, do respond to the people that they govern, and since the people that they govern are very often religious, that suggests that there may be an important role for you and religious leaders like you. Would you care to tell us your views on this?
Of course, global issue is very, very serious. Very serious. In India, where I live, the climate last more than 40 years, the climate sort of pattern is changing. In the early 60s, we used to have quite snowfall, quite thick. Decade by decade, less like that. So many parts of India, the climate condition is now changing, particularly last, I think, few years. It's a big change. So these, according to the scientists, due to the global warming. And the European continent also, you see, experience some differences. Weather is changing. So it is very serious. And then look, those big eyes, and north and south, the amount of melting also very, very, very serious. And snow, mountain, and glaciers in Tibet also rapidly melting. So basically, of course, I'm not an expert. I have a serious concern about that. I think the whole galaxies and our solar system is moving, always moving. So in any way, after a few billions of years, our sun also will disappear. So that's the end of whole world, isn't it? So now not much, you see, from that perspective, you see, not much use is it to fight my interest, your interest, my place, your place, my religion, your, it's silly. Think more, whole planet and 6 billion human beings consider as one entity, right? Much happier, much reasonable. I always telling people that the very concept of we and they is no longer relevant to today's world. So in any way, so the whole universe, that's changing. So I think getting warmer, I think with that sort of changing. Then some extent, certainly our own behavior also make the contribution for that. So in that respect, if we take certain sort of way of life and precaution measure, then certainly can reduce impact. So then another thing I always telling people, and all the seriousness about environment, not that sort of violence, war, bloodshed, very striking in our mind. So the tendency of non-violence, peace, that's easily grow. But then environment issue, invisible. Day by day or month by month, you can't see. Then decade by decades, then gradually you feel, you see signs of the degenerating of the environment. And like the warfare, these things can change by few individual or government. The environment issue, no. Whole community, entire humanity, you see, have to take sort of the responsibility. Otherwise, you see, you cannot just change these things. So therefore, it's much related with each individual. So that also, from early morning, I think everybody takes a bath, a shower. At least the last, I think, a few decades, I never take tap survey. What? Bath tap. Only shower. A small contribution, I feel. They preserve water. When I passing through, you see, in Delhi, in India, when I saw some water pipe leaking, I feel how
feel like just running out and blocking the leakage.
So is it getting some awareness, importance of or seriousness about the environment? Then is it that concept to become part of our own life, in daily life? Then there's some kind of realization of individual responsibility to take care of this planet. So it is very, very serious matter. So the religious leaders certainly have some, important role. One time, some ecological sort of organization asked me with their material to ask late Pope about the issue of the ecological issue. So I carry all these material, document, and put in his desk. I mentioned that I acted as a messenger of that organization. So what is the response from the late His Holiness Pope? I don't know. So it is everybody's, I think, responsibility and out of awareness. So I think media people, I think more important role than religious leader is to tell people they are responsibility or dangerous or this delicate situation about the environment. Then how to take measures on individual family, individual person. I think that's important. Then American lifestyle, I think, always consume. Maybe think more. Then this also is related with the gap rich and poor. In other audience, maybe some billionaire. So the number of billionaires increasing, the poor people still remain poor, and sometimes even poorer, even within the country. It's very sad. It's not only morally wrong, but practically also is a source of problem. And then another sort of the challenge is overpopulation. Of course, individual life, very, very precious. But that precious life now, too many. And brings some disaster. The 6 billion precious human life. So we have to think very seriously about these things. All this through education, through awareness. My own case, when I reached India, no idea about ecology. Then eventually, when I visited different places or also different country, and when I first heard, this river cannot drink, cannot drink water from this river, channel Saurada, not pure. I'm a bit surprised. In Tibet, any water can drinkable. no sort of distinction. This water is you can drink. This water is polluted, cannot drink. No idea. So keep in our pocket the samba, and whenever you find water, then it's ready to make lunch. Like that. Now here is no longer, you have to take these bottle of water, you see, everywhere. You like that. So to myself also, you see, the ecology problem is come later. Out of sort of also awareness. Like that. So I think many people, I think through education, through information, that's very important. So those cameras, those cameramen, I think you have very, very important role in this field.
Well, thank you for an excellent answer on that question. Let me turn to the question of Burma. And let me ask you two questions about Burma. Are you able to have direct contact with Aung San Suu Kyi, your fellow Nobel laureate? I don't think you've ever met her, but have you been able to contact her? And secondly, are you able to have dialogue directly or indirectly with the Buddhist monks who are risking their lives in the streets of Rangoon? And would you like to make any general comments on the tragedy that's unfolding in Burma?
Of course, very, very sad. And this, crisis, recent crisis, happened. Actually, I was in Europe. I saw some picture by Miss Monk, like Tibetan monks robe, maroon color, and sari, shaving gray.
Shaven heads.
Like Tibetan monk. So receiving stick from police. Very sad. Very sad. Then their purpose for open society or democracy. Very right. So, the military junta, unfortunately, I think they are quite, looks is a very stubborn way. Very stubborn. I think lack of vision, future. They simply think about their present power. It is very narrow-minded way of thinking. So I think outside world have the responsibility to make better awareness to these people. So constant sort of appeal or persuasion is very, very necessary. I think many, including United Nations, they are doing that. It's very, very encouraging, very good. And my contact, Aung San Suu Kyi, yes, I have few occasion communication. Then the monk demonstrators, I have no direct contact.
You have what?
No direct contact.
Do you think the outside world can affect this situation inside Burma? What could America do? What
Again, my answer, I don't know. That's the answer.
No, it's a very tough question. I think we're all grappling with it and have been for many, many years.
Your Holiness, if I may, off of Dick's question, you're an often visitor here to the United States. We benefit much from your visits, but I would like, and having had, this is a prejudiced question because I've had part of this discussion with you in my office when I held office. Could you tell us what you think America's role in the world should be? You've talked about you've used different terms, but the tools in our toolkit. We have more than just military. And I think we could benefit greatly from knowing your view of what America's role in the world should be and how we should portray, how should we carry ourselves.
Since my childhood, we have the view or impression America is champion of democracy, liberty, freedom. And then eventually, I myself witnessed that. That's real greatness of America. I think even the structure, the administration, the Congress, houses, it seems to see, I think the power is divided way, balance. I think these are really, it's wonderful, wonderful. And then American public, I usually found very easy to communicate. So therefore, I think beside your economic power and also military power, I think American spirit, I think really great, and you can promote that for the entire humanity. I think that's very, very important. Then, I think in 1972, when Bangladesh crisis happened, then it's East Pakistan. The American government, at that time, we got the impression a little bit tilted towards Pakistan. Then we...
You got the right impression.
Then you see in Asia, eventually, you see there's some, losing some respect. Previously, we always believed, really, champion of freedom, democracy, rule of law. But then during that period, America supporting military dictator, military junta. It's sad. So such things are, I think, very, very damaging image of America. So in recent years, and some countries in Asia and also Middle East, and I think even Africa, sometimes I think due to certain policy, I think great damage the image of America. I often use it expressing to my public talk in Europe and other countries, like President Bush. Some of his policy, I have some reservation. But as a person, very nice person. I love him. So you see, a few occasions in Europe, I expressed that one my representative there a little bit of caution, because in European, many Europeans it was just like President Bush. I like him. So I told, and this kind of person come from American society, liberal, right? Open, very straightforward. Very nice. So that's my impression. So of course, now this is not my business. I think your business. I think American foreign policy, I think number one, I think should keep your the ancestors sort of, because of the principles, democracy, liberty, freedom, rule of law, I think these are very, very important. Sometimes you may gain or you may lose temporary gain, but long run, these principles are very, very important. In any way, America is the most powerful democratic, only most powerful democratic country. Then next, India, most populated democratic country. I think these two countries have, I think, great important role to serve humanity, to bring humanity more happier, more equal, more peaceful. That's I feel. Thank you.
Your Holiness, I'm going to jump in now. We have some questions from people in the audience
Very good.
that they want to ask you. And this actually is sort of a follow-on to a point that you were making earlier. What is the nature of the moral obligation of wealthy nations to development in poorer nations, and how should this obligation be realized?
Now, as I mentioned earlier, this gap, this must address effectively. It's not right to say, oh, how poor, how pity, something like that, and pray to God. This is not sufficient. We have to work. We have to address effectively. So I think both sides, I feel, many occasions I have the opportunities of meeting some my people from poorer countries. The richer side, at first, the poorer side, they should develop self-confidence and work hard. Generally, I got the impression the poorer section of people sometimes, you see, the more sort of feeling of frustrations, and frustrations turned anger, and anger brings violence. Through violence, mutual destruction, no benefit. So instead of feeling of frustrations, work hard with self-confidence. One occasion in South Africa, I met one family in Soweto Township. There are few one family, few members there. I remember very clearly that day, I think about noon, I think due to my thirst, they provided us one tea. Oh, so delicious tea. I remember very clearly that small family. Then there, I inquired. They are sort of, well-being way. Then eventually, I promise.
As a result of this meeting with the family members, I pledged to help support the education of the younger children of that family, and later I followed up on that.
So my small contribution. Now, important thing is, there I met one quite young African. He introduced me as a teacher. Now, I inquired about the condition. The constitution now changed, become democracy. Rule of white people gone. Wonderful. But then psychological factor, still you need, because of that, more effort. to change. And then I asked, you have to work hard. You as a teacher, wonderful. Now you teach your student, self-confidence, these things. Then he told me, with some sign of sadness, told me their brain is inferior. He believed that. I'm shocked. And I told him, I argue with him, this is absolutely wrong. As far as brain is concerned, white people, black people, or yellow people, if there's blue people, all same. Same human being, same brain, same potential. Should not feel that kind of inferior. I argue, and make example with Tibetan case also. I argue. Then finally, he responded with low voice. Now I convince we are same. At that moment, I feel tremendous sort of relief. Now, at least I made some sort of some contribution, change his mental attitude. So, like that, I think that's one small example. I think self-confidence is very, very crucial. Then, education, training. And also, you see, I met one school in South Africa. They, when I entered, you see, that school, atmosphere is completely different. Every student full of joy, full of sort of spirit. So education, you see, really makes that big differences. So education is very, very important. No, and then also you see the expertise, right? What call it? Expertise, training, skills. These are very, very important. Now richer side, provide them facility of education, health. Recently, I met one in Portugal. I met. I can't remember the name of that organization, new organization. Now they are collecting 1%. 1% where? The Namju Laja Thane, common user. Namju Thano.
This is a new organization based in Portugal, and one of the projects they have is to collect.
I think international organization.
International organization. The project is to collect 1% of all the airline tickets.
So that money now used for subsidies of the eight patient, medicine for 8 patient. These are really wonderful work. Now, so the richer side is to provide facilities, education, health, these things. Then give equipment to make them self-sufficient. And then gradually you should develop self-confidence. Full self-confidence and feeling of and full confidence or equality, then genuine friendship can develop. I think that's very important. Otherwise, you see, deep inside some kind of different feeling that brings anger, jealousy, that sometimes brings disasters. That's my view.
Your Holiness, this next question actually is a good segue. What is the best piece of advice that you can give individuals on how to live day-to-day life with compassion?
Firstly, as I mentioned earlier, inequality. These also, you see, through learning. So read more or analyze more the value of compassion, warm-heartedness, and the destructiveness about anger, hatred. Now here, the not only question of peace of mind, but even physical well-being, constant anger, jealousy, fear, agitation, very bad for our health. Some scientists, she told me, the anger, strong anger and hatred actually eating our immune system. The compassion brings inner strength. That brings peace of mind. That's very, very, very important to strengthen or sustain our immune system. And then I think, according to our daily life, if one day, you see, we lost this sort of very strong temper, or angry, then whole your mood remain very bad, then at night your sleep suffer, isn't it? No. Then also, you see, digestion also eventually is a suffer. Perhaps you may rely more on alcohol. 1 glass, 2 glass, 3 glass, 4 glass, then mad like that. Very bad for your health. So genuine peace of mind, in order to get peace of mind through drugs or through these things, is nonsense. We have, by birth, we have equipped to counter these negative, destructive emotions. By nature, we all have. So if you're thinking these lines, then you develop conviction, firm conviction. In inner world, particularly emotional world, there are destructive emotions and constructive emotions. Clear awareness that. Then, like you see, taking care about our health. Similarly, out of awareness, taking care of our inner world, then come. So that's the way. Then on top of that, if someone believer, then pray to God. Give me more as a blessing in the form of compassion. And wonderful. If that prayer even fails, doesn't matter, you're already making effort.
Another member of the audience.
Here, again, media people, I think very, very important role. Then in education, since many years, of course, I myself, you see, never one day attend the school class, right? And particularly, I mean the modern education. Yesterday I mentioned my sort of English sort of knowledge like kindergarten sort of knowledge like that. However, all these, you see, troubles we are facing is essentially our own creation. That's very clear. Some disaster due to natural sort of imbalance. Otherwise, you see, most problems are our own creation. Then no single person want to create trouble. Of course, you see, want to create a problem for your enemy, but you yourself, you see, no one, you see, want to create problem to oneself. Clear. But out of control of your own emotion, then also as a result of lack of awareness, your method, even your motivation is very sincere. But because lack of knowledge about the reality, your method become unrealistic method. Result, not satisfactory result come because lack of awareness. Now, for example, the health, constant anger, fear. That lack of awareness about caring of our own emotion. So through education, we have to educate our younger generation. Sometimes I tell you, the people, when something goes wrong, it is unfair to blame some of these leaders alone. But these leaders come from a society where full of anger, hatred, competition like that, lack of affection. Perhaps now too long.
No.
When you, I think you mentioned, I think, suspicion, isn't it? In the Chinese side, suspicion. I think that is very true. Now look, in Stalin's period and Chairman Mao's period, apparently, comrade, they always use the word of comrade. But internally, full suspicion each other. Oh, terrible. Isn't it? So not only it was me, but it was their own sort of member of the Politburo. I think full of suspicion each other. I think, although I'm one of the admirer of Karl Marx's theory, I still call myself half Marxist. I'm proud to stay in America to say that. So in any way, you see,
So you're more Marxist than the Chinese leaders, then?
maybe. But then, unfortunately, eventually, Marxism just simply they justify their power. Their main aim, main concern is power. From Stalin to Mao Zedong. I think that's a really, damaging factor for pure Marxism. This I feel. So in any way, correct? What was that? So, what was that? Oh, that argument come from where? Oh, so the leadership come from certain society where, you see, the lack of compassion, lack of sort of sense of community, then these things will happen. Therefore, it is ultimately change of our society way of thinking. That is I think our strategy is that. So now, how to change, you see, society, change of our emotion, change of our mind through education. Our younger generation, whose mind not fixed, open. So educate them using our common sense, common experience, and latest scientific finding. So that I usually call non-religious way, without touching religion, but simply through, I call secularism. Secularism. But here you see some the problem. Some of my friends say secularism means some tendency, rejection of religion. But according Indian friend, and particularly Indian constitution, is based on secularism. That not at all against or rejection of religion. Instead, respect all religions and also respect non-believer. Equal to everybody, believer, non-believer, among the believer, this belief, that belief, no differences, all equal. That's I consider, I take the interpretation secularism that way. So I usually call secular way to approach, to promote these inner value through education, not through preaching, but through education, through awareness. So I think education have very, very important. Up to now, modern education system full pay attention about brain development, not adequate pay attention about development of warm-heartedness. That's quite clear. So usually we rely on religious teaching. That I think mistake.
Well, thank you for educating us, Your Holiness. I think we're going to leave it there, and we want to thank His Holiness the Dalai Lama for taking so much time out of his schedule to speak before the Asia Society, CSIS, and the Brookings Institution. And we want to thank all of you for coming out today. If you wouldn't mind just staying in your seats for a moment until His Holiness leaves the stage. And also we want you to know that there are copies of His Holiness's address before the U.S. Congress yesterday when he received the gold medal that will be at the back of the room for you to pick up if you like on your way out. Thank you so much.